let's get started. I'm sure people will slowly join as the webinar continues. So hi, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today's Circular Economy webinar on the Circular Economy Toolkits developed by Edge Impact. So firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Nick. I work at Edge Impact, a sustainability consultancy based in Australia and New Zealand, and we do work in the circular economy space, ESG, waste, climate risk, and carbon emissions. And we firstly just like to also thank the Restaurant and Catering Association for helping us host this webinar today. I'd like to introduce Vanessa Barnes just to say a quick few words.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. And I'm really looking forward to what Nick and some of the other presenters that we have and what they're going to be talking about. But thank you everybody for joining, and I hope that you get a lot out of this session today, as I'm sure you will. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Vanessa. And just quickly want to say thank you to the City of Sydney for supporting and funding this project. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. If you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat or the chat. Aditi, who works with me at Edge, will be looking through these questions and ensuring that we have a bit of time at the end to answer some of those as well. And just note that this webinar is going to be recorded, so it'll be posted on the Restaurant and Catering Association's website after this. So let's get started. So firstly, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional lands on which I'm presenting on today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And just a reminder that circular economy also inspires regeneration of land and rethinking the current waste and resource intensive systems we are a part of. So for today's webinar, there'll be 3 key learning outcomes over the next 45 minutes. The first will be what is circular economy, understanding what it means for your business and how it can be a positive tool for change in the hospitality industry. Next, we'll learn about how to use the Circular Economy Toolkits and what practical initiatives you can consider for your business. And lastly, we'll hear from a few guest speakers that will demonstrate the success of practical circular economy initiatives they've implemented in their business. So for the speakers today, you obviously have myself, and you've heard from Vanessa. We'll also be hearing from Kimmy from Cherry Moon Cafe based in Sydney. You'll also hear from Henry from Radish Catering Events, the Managing Director. And you'll also hear from Sabrina, the Senior Partnerships Manager at Too Good To Go. So just quickly with the agenda today, so we're talking a little bit about the Circular Economy Toolkits, how you can take action and implement those initiatives. You'll hear from the guest speakers, and then we'll talk about how these toolkits can create value for your business now and in the future. And there'll obviously be some time for some questions at the end. So let's get into the webinar. So for those unaware of the circular economy and what it means for businesses, a quick little history update. So traditionally, we've worked in business models that are quite linear. So a product or an asset or a food item will be developed, it'll be manufactured, it'll be used by consumers, and then typically thrown in the bin. Now, a circular economy creates a loop system around that use and manufacturing stage, looking at ways that we can extend the life cycle of a product, how we can reuse it, repair it, remanufacture, or refurbish it, essentially any way to keep it out of the bin. Now, circular economy can be great for businesses as well, and it goes beyond sustainability and acts as a powerful force to strengthen your business operations. It can help cut unnecessary spend, especially on procurement and waste. It can also help you build a valuable story for your staff and customers, and it can also help reduce your environmental impact. And we'll go into these today. So how do we get to these circular economy toolkits? Well, over the last 2 to 3 years, Edge has worked in numerous circular economy projects, not only with the hospitality sector, but with the retail sector, logistic organizations, and large multinational companies, all the way down to independent SMEs. And what we found specifically with the hospitality sector was that there are a lot of gaps between practical sustainability initiatives and how they can actually be implemented, whilst also reducing costs and meeting the operational demands of today. The 4 circular economy toolkits we've developed have been worked with under multiple consultations and interviews with a number of hospitality professionals, chefs, and hospitality groups. So these have been developed with the industry and for the industry. What we've also included in each of these toolkits is we've identified businesses such as the guest speakers today who've achieved sustainability and circular economy outcomes whilst deriving social and economic value from the initiatives they've implemented. In terms of some of the industry supporters, as mentioned, there are numerous amount of independent SMEs, but I'd also just like to take a quick moment to thank some of the larger organisations that helped us under multiple consultations. That's the Restaurant and Catering Association Australia, Nando's, Sushi, First Nations Responsible Cafes, Singlo Coffee, Circle, Kai Keepers, the Restaurant Association New Zealand, and Cherry Moon Cafe. So let's talk about the first 4 circular economy toolkits and what they are. So the 4 circular economy toolkits that we've developed with this group are now hosted on the Restaurant and Catering Association website, and you'll be able to find them online by simply searching Circular Economy Toolkits Hospitality as well. So we recommend any business that's interested in these, please search them up. All 4 of them are free to download on the website. Each of them provides a guide on the why, so why they were introduced and why we focus on a certain thing, how to implement the practical initiatives listed, and a case study that demonstrates the success that a business has had with these initiatives. The 4 circular economy toolkits are firstly, number 1, on waste management. The second one is on food waste. The third is on packaging, and the 4th is on procurement. So who are the toolkits designed for? So they're designed for a number of key stakeholders in the industry. So it might be venue managers and owners, as well as chefs and general managers, sourcing managers, commercial office kitchens, and sustainability managers as well. And what you'll find is each toolkit might be more pertinent to a certain team member in a hospitality venue or group. So how do we use the toolkits and what are they all about? So firstly, the images on the right are a great description of what's included in these toolkits. So some of the toolkits have a lot of key information on some certifications, what to look for, some economic values on the cost benefits of each of these initiatives. They also provide visual images of what to look for certain types of packaging and waste management systems. And most importantly, they have a Set Your Team Up for Success section, which provides 3 practical initiatives that your business can investigate and look into. So when using the toolkits, what we recommend is the business member to choose one toolkit that resonates most with them from a sustainability issue or passion that they'd like to explore. For chefs, that might be food waste and procurement. For venue managers, it might be packaging. For operation managers as well, you might be interested in waste management. So there's always one for each different issue that a business is facing. There are 3 practical initiatives in each one in the Set Up Your Team for Success section. Review each of them and choose one that's most pertinent to you. The initiatives are also broken down into a good, better, and best system. So there's a step ladder process, and why we've introduced that is to ensure that rather than reaching straight for the stars, we want businesses to track and measure progress and start with an easy, good outcome, and then work their way up the ladder. Lastly, there's a case study as well that's been introduced for each toolkit, which we really recommend reading to understand not only the economic value that was created, but also the social value of these initiatives and how it helped with customer retention. Now let's get on to how these toolkits can help you take action and how you can implement the initiatives more specifically. So the first toolkit I'd like to introduce is waste management. And this is a great one for operation managers trying to understand how they can streamline their operations. Now, the most important thing to remember with waste management is it's not just about recycling. It goes beyond that. It's streamlining operations, making things more efficient for your staff members, reducing outgoing costs from your general waste, and also it's an easy action to take on your sustainability journey. It's a team effort, and it's also a behavior change opportunity. A good way to think about this is if you can save on your waste costs, say 5 to 15% per week, and let's say that's $50 to $100, cumulatively that's between $3,000 to $5,000 per year, which is a large and significant amount. Now, the 3 initiatives we've introduced here are practical ones that have worked really well to aid operational managers and executive chefs work with their staff members to ensure their waste separation systems work well. The first initiative is getting the waste room right. This ensures that you have the right recycling bins for the space that you have in your dock. Now, it's important to note that not all businesses have a lot of space, so it's important to choose the right bins that will work for your system as well. That might be food waste for a large cafe and coffee grinds. For another business, it might be glass, where there is a lot of glass produced, say a pub or a large restaurant. On top of that as well, it's ensuring that you have the right bins in your kitchen and front of house to help your staff ensure they can separate it effectively. The second initiative leans into that. It's using clear signage. Visual prompts are super effective in kitchens, especially fast-paced environments where teams are busy. So use signage and also use bin liners that are colored as well to help your staff differentiate and use the right practices. Now, the last one is leading by example with team training and daily habits. A good example that can demonstrate this is an executive chef we've worked with in a hotel who's introduced food waste and commingled and glass recycling over the last 5 years. Each week, he does weekly reminders with his executive chefs, his team members and staff, and uses daily reminders on WhatsApp and other texts to ensure that all members understand that no contamination is accepted in either stream and what to do if contamination occurs. And it's worked really well. And in doing so, he's able to continue on his waste journey and save on costs on his bottom line. But let's get into another case study. We talked to Single O Cafe in Surrey Hills who were looking to reduce their waste, improve their approach to waste management, and also save on costs. So what did they change to ensure that they could streamline their waste management approach and reduce waste? Firstly, they recognized that coffee grinds were the heaviest material in their landfill bin. Now, landfill bins increase on costs every year due to a tax levy, and often they're charged on weight-based charges as well. If they could get the coffee grinds out, it would mean less costs for them as well, and hopefully a chance to reduce the frequency of collection. So what they did is they introduced reground coffee collections, which was a cost-competitive competitor that allowed them to reduce their costs and avoid having coffee grinds in their bin. On top of that, they separate all prep waste, think vegetable trimmings, fruit trimmings, meat trimmings, and all of that goes into an organics bin using green compostable bin liners and a green bin in their kitchen. A lot of the Tetra Pak milk cartons, think oat milk, soy, and almond, will go into their general waste as they can't be properly recycled, and that's a lot of volume in their bins. So they switched to milk bladders, and what that did was they used a low emission product and it significantly reduced the volume of waste in their general waste. And lastly, reusable customer mugs. Now, I know this is a controversial topic in Australia, seeing as we're such a heavy coffee drinking society, but what worked really well for this business was asking their staff to ask each customer whether they wanted a returnable reusable mug. Now, this didn't work every single time, but what they noticed was they were able to reduce their procurement costs on coffee cups week on week. And any savings, whether it's 2 to 5% cumulative every year, was a lot for them. And the result, Single O were able to lower their frequency of waste collections, and waste management became part of their staff's routine, not a burden. Let's get on to the second toolkit. The second toolkit looks at food waste, and I know chefs very much value food waste and understand what it's all about. So I'm not here to remind you of that, but rather to understand what the value is from ensuring that you minimize any food waste through spoilage, prep, or plate, because it is lost profit. But it's also an opportunity to upskill your chefs to work with them to ensure that they can redesign their menus, minimize spoilage, and manage and track food waste. The first initiative I want to talk about is designing flexible menus. Now, it's important to track meal sizes and utilize ingredients across meals. A great way to think about it is if you or your business have a meal with salmon and typically use 100 grams per portion, but what you're noticing once you track it is that around only 80 to 90 grams is used, and often 10 grams is left by customers. If you can reduce that, that's 10% of cost saves on the salmon per week. And that can, again, cumulatively over a year, significantly increase. It's the same as using as much of the product as possible across different meals, whether it's a la carte menus, sample menus you have, breakfast, lunch, or dinners. The second one is minimizing spoilage and unsold food. Setting up a system, whether it's through stickers or an external contractor to pick up unsold food, such as Too Good To Go, is a great way to ensure stock is sold and is used, and or your profit margins can come back as well, or at least go to break even. The last one is managing your food waste. That might be measuring the volume of vehicle transport per week. Again, it might be the example of the salmon. If you can track and measure this, you start to understand where you can save on costs. A great way to think about this from an economic perspective is if you spend $1,000 plus, or let's say $1,000 on products per week, and you typically have 8% wastage. If you can reduce that to 5%, that's $30 worth of savings per week. Cumulatively over the year, that's $1,500. And the case study that we've prepared in this toolkit is a great example of that. So a while ago, Edge and the Restaurant Association in New Zealand conducted a 2.5-year trial with 120 hospitality venues, and we tested 4 food waste reduction initiatives. The first food waste first food waste reduction initiative with smaller portion menu options. And what we noticed was that business were able to save on 18.6% on costs. And that was approximately $8,000 to $9,000 per year, which is a significant amount as well. The second initiative was utilizing prep waste in new dishes. And what that did was saw a 17.5% reduction in costs, which cumulatively over a year was $3,000 to $4,000. The third initiative was upselling at-risk stock, which saw a 20% reduction in costs, which cumulatively was $7,000 to $8,000 per year. The fourth initiative was redirecting unsold food to staff meals, which was approximately 17% reduction in costs, which again equated to $5,000 to $6,000 per year on average. And I mean, those costs speak for themselves, but one of the biggest value items that businesses didn't expect was that when they started communicating these initiatives to their customers really enjoyed hearing what they were doing and valued this. And this actually helped increase their customer retention as well, a great social value add. The third toolkit is packaging. And we understand that packaging is an excellent way to ensure that your products are protected on their journey to your venues. But more plastic means more waste and higher collection costs as well. And it's bad for the environment as most of it can't be recycled, especially plastic packaging. So what we encourage here with this toolkit is for businesses to start to think about how they can introduce smarter packaging choices and start conversations with their suppliers to open up avenues for reusable and recyclable packaging. Now, the caveat is that we understand this doesn't happen over time. But what we've seen with businesses who've started to open up that line of questioning with suppliers is that there is market demand, and with that there'll be market growth, and suppliers are responding to these changes and requests and slowly providing options. A good example to think about is the classic milk bottle delivery man that we used to have 30, 40 years ago. Glass bottles of milk were delivered every day, and every day the glass bottles from yesterday's delivery were collected. Now, what that did was minimize waste for both the customer and the business didn't have to continue to purchase more plastic packaging, and the customer didn't have to throw out any waste, which is good. So in saying that, the first initiative that we recommend is thinking of how you can cut down on single-use packaging. Now, that means going from supplier by supplier, requesting a swap to recyclable packaging. Think paper, think cardboard, think rigid plastics such as your classic milk bottles again, or any glass items as well, whilst ensuring that OH&S standards are maintained and that you can protect the product. The second is trialing reusable packaging. You can trial a reusable packaging model, whether it's with coffee beans, bread, or pastries, which you've often seen already. And once you start finding success with that and you're setting up your storage areas, you can also look at ways that you can offer your customers reusable takeaways. And it's a great way to start is with reusable, for cafes is with reusable coffee cups, and for takeaway venues for customers that are staying nearby or in local to your area as well. And the case study speaks to this as well. So the third case study is Circular Reusable Cups, who are a company that provide cafes and a reusable cup system that ensures that their cups can be used. There are collection drop-off points, and coffee cups can be reused daily. So Circle Coffee Cups is one example, worked with 4 cafes in One Farrer Sydney Tower in a Sydney office CBD building. And what they did is they ensured that the cafe's team members were on board with the program. And so cafes, similar to Singolo, reminded customers of the reuse system, including the simple customer drop-offs in nearby areas as well, and when customers needed to drop off the coffee cup spot. Now, the result of that was that Circle have helped One Farrer and the 4 cafes avoid over 200,000 coffee cups already. Now, if we think about that from a numbers perspective, if each coffee cup costs 25 to 50 cents, and that's 200,000 coffee cups, that's $50,000 to $100,000 saved per year for businesses alone. And if you can quantify that and think about ways that you can do that with your business, and not just coffee cups, but any reusable packaging methods, it's a simple way to reduce your procurement costs and also reduce your waste downstream. And Circle are a great business that can help measure those impacts, especially for cafes. Now onto the fourth toolkit. The fourth toolkit is specifically designed for venue managers, sourcing managers, and sustainability professionals within the industry who are looking at ways that they can introduce sustainable and circular procurement, which is about helping a business reduce their impact in their supply chain, whilst also creating social and economic value for their business, especially with brand awareness. This includes strengthening supply chains, introducing ethical certifications, using local suppliers where possible, trialing reuse seasonal produce as much as possible, and furnishing or fitting out your business with low impact products. So the first initiative we want businesses to consider is looking at the right certifications. So in this toolkit, we have a number of different certifications, and we have a number of different businesses that procure Indigenous-led products that we recommend reviewing and thinking about how you can ask your supplier about them. A simple one that many will recognize is RSPCA approved farming, which is a great ethical certification to use. The next is local and seasonal produce. Now, again, we want to caveat that we're not asking businesses to completely change from large multinational logistics suppliers only to local suppliers. But what we've seen is when businesses have a nice mix of local suppliers and national logistics suppliers, in the case of where there are climate risk disasters that affect multinational logistics suppliers, or things with gas prices, such as what a lot of businesses experience at the start of the year and are continuing to experience, local suppliers can often provide a nice cost cut effective price point for businesses, and it can also improve your relations and support your local ecosystem. Now, lastly, the third practical initiative is buying recycled or secondhand materials when you're fitting out your business. Now, this doesn't, again, need to be every single asset that you need to procure in your fit out. We know businesses want to have a certain aesthetic, but there are often times where you can swap high emission products such as concrete to a timber frame or something that, or recycled timber from your local men's shed that has a much lower impact on the environment as well. Now, getting to the fourth toolkit, you've probably heard enough of my voice, so I'm going to pass you over to Kimmy, who I believe is here on the call. She's the owner of Cherry Moon Cafe and is part of the fourth case study. So I'd like to introduce Kimmy to speak a little bit about her use of seasonal produce for suppliers and how she manages seasonal supply costs as well. Thanks, Kimmy. Are you on the call?
Yeah. Hey, guys, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes, can see you, Kimmy.
Hey. Yeah, so I run Cherry Moon General Store, wood-fired oven bakery in Annandale. And just, yeah, great to be here with you all today. We work with some really amazing suppliers like whole grain milling to use in our bakery for all of our sourdough bread, all the pastries and donuts, cookies, pretty much everything that we make. And why I choose to work with them is they're really using a lot of the sustainable practices in their business. They're really focusing on soil health, regenerative farming practices. Then, you know, that's creating very mineral rich flour, and then it's a lower carbon footprint. And in the results, it's just that we're able to use something that's such more high quality, looking after the land at the same time, and but yeah, really believing in the suppliers that we're using to run our bakery. We also are working with a lot of seasonal produce, so every season we're in touch with, or like quite regularly, we're in touch with our fruit and veggie suppliers around what's good at the moment, what the costs are, and creating our menu based around that. And yeah, then that's inspiring us to come up with what the ideas with what we're going to put on the menu at the time. And yeah, with our fit out, we got a whole lot of recycled timber to fit out Cherry Moon, along with our wood-fired oven facade, which is from 1869 from an old bakery in Ballarat. We've worked with the men's shed quite a lot to build all of our peels and anything timber related in the store. They've been sanding back our tables and fixing things. And so, yeah, we're big on repurposing and like just keeping the old ways of cooking alive. And we love to create an environment where people are learning that as chefs as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kim. And yeah, definitely agree with that sentiment. And, you know, from what Kimmy's saying as well, it's a lot about just working with those local suppliers and creating those local relationships that will really help your business as well, and also reduce your environmental impact. And I definitely recommend, if any of you in the Sydney area, to go check out Cherry Moon. It's a beautiful little general store, incredible bread, and I can definitely say that whole grain milling co bread and is awesome. I've had it many times. So yeah, thank you, Kimmy, for jumping on. So now we'll hear from a couple more guest speakers as well. And I'd firstly like to introduce Henrique Tura, who's the Managing Director of Radish Events. So Radish Events is a specialized catering company that's B Corp certified and is a great example, again, such as Cherry Moon General Store, of leading circular economy initiatives. But I'll let Henry speak to that and speak a little bit about how he's managed and tracked food waste and his procurement guidelines as well. So thanks, Henry. Over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Over to you. It feels like we're on the news.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. To talk a little bit about how we approach food waste. There's a few parts of that. So obviously, we're a catering company. That means we're producing food in our prep kitchen here in St. Peter's, and then we're taking that to clients who, often will book, let's say, a corporate event for 70 people, and then only 50 will show up and that kind of thing. So the way we look at food waste is there is obviously the prep waste, which happens in our kitchen. That would be, I would say, at least 60 to 70% of where our food waste comes from. And what we try to do there is we try to think of circular menu design, which is a very pretty way of saying basically how can we use every part of each ingredient and have not so much of you think of a dish and then the ingredients for that dish in an isolated way, and then there's another dish with a whole new set of ingredients, but rather we think, how do these dishes connect to each other via the ingredients and the subcuts of that ingredient, and maybe a waste component. So to give you an example, if we buy a whole fish where we're going to use the loin for a dinner, and we're using the main part of the fish to create a main dish, we would get the rest of the fish, so the head, the frames, the tails, and everything, and smoke it in-house, and then pick all the meat from the bones and create a croquette that we can sell as a canapé. The beautiful thing about that is, first of all, it's delicious, but secondly, the profitability for that canapé is through the roof, because it's part of a fish that has already been paid for, essentially. So we can really improve the bottom line by doing things like that. Another interesting way to do that is we make focaccia in-house, which we like to think is the best focaccia in Sydney. I'm sure there's going to be some contenders here. And we take that to grazing tables, for instance, and we put a lot of love and effort into making that focaccia, and it's always a shame to see focaccia left over at events. I think bread is probably one of the things that is the most left over at events and at homes as well. So what we started doing was, if we have leftover focaccia from an event, and maybe it's something that we didn't put out, so it's safe from a health and safety perspective, we can bring that back, and we figure out two recycling streams. So one is we dry it, turn it into breadcrumbs again, and then use that to make our lavash, which are basically cheese crackers. So we make these big long sheets that we then incorporate into the next grazing table, and that gets broken up into little crackers to have with the cheese that we serve. And then recently the chefs came up with another dish, which is they get the focaccia and they turn it into sort of a jam, or like a curd, like a focaccia curd, if you will. And they're using that to pipe it into a little pastry that's dusted with sugar and then torched, and it just becomes like a little dessert. And when they came up with a focaccia jam, I was like, "Oh, guys, I really don't know how this is gonna be," but it turned out to be something really interesting and new, and I haven't seen anywhere before, and it was really delicious. So again, it's trying to think of how to connect the dishes and trying to think of waste from that perspective. And then there's obviously, when we go on events, trying to prevent waste from happening there. What we try to do is, invariably, there are going to be less guests than maybe the client booked us for. We're never going to take less food than we have to. We're always going to cater for the full number. But what we try to do is design the menu in such a way that there are components of dishes that we can take, let's say, vacuum sealed and keep in the fridge through the duration. And if they don't get enough guests show up, we can bring that back with us and use it again for another event that's coming up soon. Obviously, it doesn't work with everything. We have to keep in mind health and safety. So it's not going to work for every dish and not for every component, but for some things where we can keep them refrigerated, it does work. And it also means that obviously we are recycling food costs as well. So those are two sort of main ways to tackle food waste. And then what we did to be able to track that, because we've always been saying that we're trying to reduce food waste, is we have an organic bin in our kitchen. That's where all of the food waste goes into. It gets picked up for compost. We started weighing the bins, all of the waste streams, but most importantly, the organics bin. So we take the weight of the bin before we put it out for collection and take a note of that every week. So we've accumulated, I think we have about 2.5 years of organic waste collection data now. And that told us, okay, we have recycled, let's say, 2,000 kilos of food in the last 12 months. And that was, okay, what do we do with that number? Is that good or bad? So the other side that we developed was how much are we actually buying in terms of ingredients? What's the weight of that? So that we can compare, okay, I bought 10 tons of food in a year and I recycled 2 tons. So my efficiency rate, if you will, is 80%, meaning out of everything that we bought, 80% ended up in bellies and 20% ended up in compost. And that's just a way for us to track against ourselves. How can we improve? How can we get that to 85? What's the biggest weight in the bin? Is it cauliflower stems? Is it bones? Is it, peels of vegetables? What is it? So that we can develop new dishes to account for that. And then in terms of procurement, just conscious of time, so I'll say this in a minute. In terms of procurement, we really try to work with suppliers that are like-minded to what we do. Obviously, we're a food business, so a lot of our impact, especially if we're talking about carbon emissions, is our supply chain. So really being quite specific about what kinds of suppliers we use is really important to us. And we've found that it's one of the conversations that has the most leverage with consumers as well, with our clients, because if a supplier really cares about how they do things, it usually means that they make really good produce and it's really high quality. And that translates directly to our clients to be able to say, we only work with a short list of suppliers that we're really particular about, and that means quality for you and for the dishes. As long as we don't F them up when we're making them, it means that you're going to get better quality produce with better impact as well. That's it for me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Henry. And yeah, to definitely reiterate, I think he touches on all of those points in the practical initiatives that we've introduced in that second food waste toolkit, flexible menu design, tracking food waste. And I'm sure Henry can reiterate this, but he didn't start everything at the same time. It was one step at a time and building up to it. And that's the best way to approach a lot of these initiatives as well in these toolkits. And thanks for jumping on, Henry, and spending a bit of time talking about your processes with food waste and procurement. And this leads in really well to our last guest speaker today, which is Sabrina from Too Good To Go, which is a food waste app that some of you might be familiar with, but I'll let Sabrina do most of the talking. She's a senior partnerships manager as well, and I'll let her jump in and speak. So Sabrina.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. Hopefully most people on this call have heard of Too Good To Go, but if you haven't, we are proud to say that we are the world's largest B2C marketplace for surplus food. So reducing food waste from a retail food service level, working with cafes, QSR, hotels, catering companies and everything to connect our consumers with them to help them sell the food that they would normally be putting to waste. So we've been live in Australia for almost 2 years, but we'd have to say Australia's been our fastest growing market by a long shot. So in the past 18 months, we have over 4,000 partners who are saving their food from going to waste and also recovering some revenue from it as well, but then also being able to, cater to their local markets. Obviously, I think we would all know if we've been in that business before, whether you have a general store, a supermarket, a cafe, a catering business, you do always want to make enough so that in case someone walks through your doors and says, hey, I want to buy something, you have it. But then you do always have that problem of, am I overproducing? Like what happens on a rainy day when they don't come in? So that's where I guess Too Good To Go comes into effect. So those are just some of the local partners we work with, but I would say out of the 4,000 we've got, about 60% of those are actually independents. So anyone who's owning their own store, their own restaurant, their own business, have come on board to do something about food waste, which is very encouraging. So how does it work? Really nice and simple, I guess. It's a marketplace on your phone. You can go on, you can see what's around you. There's a collection time. And we base it on surprise and delight. So we have surprise bags on there. Our partners, they put it up based on their surplus that they have every day. Consumers go in, they reserve it. It gives them the opportunity to try a new place they've never tried before, and get surprised with what's in their bag. And it's worked really, really well, I guess, for our market as well. And it puts the full control with our partners. So obviously we don't want anyone creating surplus, but at least now they have an avenue to do something about it. And as we all know, the cost is there. Right. So, we've purchased the products, whether you've purchased the ingredients to make something with it, then you're paying the labor to cook or to manage it. You're paying for the transport to get the food products or whatever to your locations. And it is a cost to then throw it out if you need to. So being able to have an avenue to recover that cost becomes really important and really key. And I guess the added benefit is then you're also welcoming people back into your stores because people do need to come and visit you to collect their bag. And while they're there, they get to experience what else you have to offer. So it's something that we are quite proud of. And, it's really great to see. I think anyone would agree. 2 to 5 years ago, the discussion around food waste was not that prominent. It's something that's become more and more of a conversation now, and it's great to see what everyone is doing. My husband himself, he's a chef in hotels, and I would love to share some of the things that you're working on, Henry, with him, because I'm sure he'll be inspired. So trying to keep in with my time limit, but key things that, what food retail, food service businesses can unlock with something like Too Good To Go is, like I said, you can recover the revenue, cover your food cost. You can obviously work towards reducing that food waste, and we do help with that ESG tracking as well. But you can also get new customers through your door. It's such a competitive landscape, especially when you're competing with delivery platforms and other things that are happening. And we try and keep it nice and simple. A store can get on board. We don't do locking contracts or anything like that. But the whole premise around it is giving businesses an avenue so that they can trial new things. They can, cater to their markets without the fear of oversupply or overproduction, because they've got a solution for it. So hopefully I haven't gone over my time, but if anyone does have any questions, please do let me know. But it's really inspiring to hear what everyone's doing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for your time as well. And yeah, just to reiterate, Too Good To Go is one of a great practical initiative that a lot of businesses can consider as well. A lot of my friends use it. I've used it myself as well. And it's a great way to ensure that, as Sabrina said, you can help reduce any bottom line costs, reduce food waste to landfill as well if you don't have a food organics recycling bin set up. As I mentioned earlier, with general waste tax levies increasing year on year, any ways that you can reduce waste is a great way to do it. And Too Good To Go is a great app to do so. So now I'll move towards the end of the webinar, but firstly, just like to take a quick moment to talk about the value from the toolkits and the key takeaways from the webinar today before we get into some questions. So as discussed, the circular economy initiatives that we've presented today and some of the examples that all three guest speakers talked about are that they're practical and they're accessible. As we developed these toolkits, it was done in consultation with so many members of the food industry, the hospitality industry, that these toolkits are ready to be used now, but they're also legacy documents. They can help your businesses achieve their sustainability goals, reduce your costs at the same time, create value for your customers, and strengthen those supplier relationships. And customers want to hear what your businesses are doing. There was a recent report last year in 2025 from South Pole, where it found that close to 76% of Australian shoppers weigh sustainability into their purchasing decisions. Now, that might not be every day and they might not be searching for it, but if you tell them what your business is doing and one of these circular economy initiatives, it's a great way that people can resonate with what your business is and your business model as well. So, key takeaways. As mentioned, the toolkits are legacy documents. You can download them on the Restaurant and Catering Association website. There's 4 of them and they're all for free to use. And just a reminder, take one initiative at a time, choose one that feels relevant and feasible, and choose the right toolkit for you and where your business is at in terms of its sustainability and circular economy journey. Use the stepladder good, better, best system. Reaching from the stars from the get-go doesn't always work. Start low, track your progress, and measure that over, say, 6 months to a year. And once you're comfortable that you've implemented that initiative to its best, start on the next one. Thirdly, work with your team. Your chefs and staff can help you build the initiatives and systems you want to implement, but I'm sure all the 3 guest speakers can attest that you need to ensure all staff members are on board with your initiatives. Once you do that, you encounter less resistance and it's a lot easier for you to implement your initiative. And lastly, your suppliers will listen. Where there's market demand, there's market growth. We know traditionally supply chains have used single-use packaging, but there is momentum for change. Ask and you shall receive. It might not be now, but it might be in 6 months' time. So lastly, how can Edge and our guest speakers help? Firstly, if Edge is very excited to be able to help any businesses apply any of the initiatives in the toolkit or field any questions over the next few months. We can provide you with recommendations on approaches to packaging or procurement conversations with your suppliers. And lastly, if you want to get in touch with any of the guest speakers, please email me at nick.jackson@edgeimpact.global. You'll be able to find me and I'll be able to put you in contact with either Sabrina, Henry, or Kimmy if you have any questions about the toolkits or about what they've talked about today as well. And lastly, I'd just like to say again, a special thanks to the Restaurant and Catering Association for hosting this and recording this today. As mentioned, this recording will be sent out to RNCA members and will be available on the website to look at as well. So thank you again, Vanessa. And Aditi, I know there's probably been a few questions in the chat. Are there any questions that would be good to bring up and talk about before we get going?
No questions in the chat as of now, unless anyone wants to add one in as we sort of go through. But we can field through other questions just to get the conversation going, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. So we've just got some, I think, one question come through from, might be in the chat. Sorry about that. Oh, Marlene's asked if any of the guest speakers would be willing to be a guest speaker in their class. So yeah, definitely reach out, Marlene, to any of them, and I'm happy to give you their contact details after this as well. But I guess a good question as well that we wanted to bring up for some of the guest speakers, and we'll just quickly each ask one of them a question. Aditi, did you want to ask some of the questions to the guest speakers?
Yep, can do. So Henry, we would love to hear more about your approach to procurement. You mentioned how suppliers with good policies in place likely have better quality produce, and this is attractive to your clients. So could you tell us more about how you speak about these initiatives to your customers and chefs as well?
Yeah, sure. So with clients, we're always trying to find ways to, I guess, get people to resonate with what we're trying to do with the business. Sustainability in general can get quite overwhelming if we're trying to name every single sort of process that we do. That might not always be so relevant for someone who's booking an event. And what we found is that the project itself is one of the things that resonates the most. So leveraging that conversation of by having a strict procurement guide with certain criteria and favoring suppliers that have better ethos, whether it is like Kimmy was mentioning, regenerative farming, biodynamic, low carbon impact, those things usually equate to better produce and more tasty produce in the end. And that translates directly into the plate. So that's often something that we sort of lead with if we feel like the client is not someone who is particularly interested in sustainability in a more in-depth way, and they're sort of more it's just like a nice to have, then that's kind of what we'll lead with. Other clients are a bit more advanced, let's say, and they're more interested in knowing what kind of beef we buy, where we buy our beef from, what are the credentials and certifications that come with that. And so then we can share that kind of insight. The two things that I would say I find from the chef side of it, so from the kitchen point of view, interesting is obviously the quality. We love working with great quality produce, but not gonna lie, it is quite the process to filter through what's out there and try to understand whether the suppliers that we're working with actually do the practices that they say they do or not, because often you'll find a lot of suppliers will just say yes and nod their head to whatever question you ask them. And so having to dig a little bit deeper and just sort of be more curious about what it is that we're buying and what it is that we're selling, I found that first strengthens the relationship that we have with suppliers, but then also gives us more stories to talk about when we do talk to our clients. So to give an example, we buy our eggs from a company, a farm in Kangaroo Valley, and they deliver the eggs in these reusable egg trays, so not the sort of cardboard ones. So it's a milk crate with all the reusable egg trays inside, and every time they deliver, they pick up the one from the previous drop and sort of replace it like that. So very similar to the milk bottle analogy that you were giving, Nick, before. They're great eggs, and they are committed to doing things more sustainably. So that also opens up a channel of communication between us and them. And it's a nice story that we can talk about with our clients when they come in. Same goes for our veg supplier. The boxes that they deliver one day, we sort of keep on the side. And then when they do the next delivery, they pick those up and take them back with them. Does that answer your question? So I'm just conscious of time.
No. Thank you so much, Henry. Aditi, you have a question for Kimmy, and then maybe we can jump to Sabrina for one last question before we end the webinar.
Yeah, sounds good. So Kimmy, if you could recommend one way to get in contact with local suppliers, what would that be?
Oh, you're just on mute, Kimmy.
Hey, yeah. Sorry. So that's funny because so many of the people I've met have been from previous places I've worked and just keeping in conversation. But Carriage Works Markets is a really amazing market on Saturdays, and it's the whole theme for that Saturday market is meeting the producers, and usually a lot of the owners of their businesses are actually down there, like Pepe Saya butter, cheese makers, I don't know, there's just like people that are really passionate and put a lot of care into what they're making. I feel like, and growers as well. There's a lot of growers down there, and I think just seeing if anyone is doing wholesale, and we have a lot of people actually coming into our shop with honey or things that they've got in their backyard, produce as well. And so I think just like having the courage to reach out, research, look online, see on Instagram people that you love what they're doing, and just starting to spark the conversation. But yeah, getting to fresh markets and stuff would be a great start.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kimmy. And as I mentioned earlier in the toolkits, it's just starting with one supplier and moving to the next. We know that sometimes we need to use multinational logistics suppliers for certain products, but you can always just go to your local market, get in touch with a supplier, like Kimmy said, talk to them and see what they can offer you and what they can, and then grow that relationship from there. Aditi, would you like to ask Sabrina our last question for today?
Yeah. So Sabrina, can any business join Too Good To Go, and how do you ensure occupational health and safety practices are maintained?
Yeah, great question. Easily any business can join us. We work with a wide range, whether it's ready to order or made to order. Like I said, hotels, catering, restaurants, supermarkets, cafes, bakeries, anything under the even work with some manufacturers as well. So anyone can join us. I think in terms of the health and safety, the basic rule is that we stick to the current standards. People are coming into your store to collect their bag. What should be going in the bag is something that you'd be comfortable selling to them if they were coming outside of Too Good To Go. That's the basic rule of thumb we have. If you are baking that day, and your rule of thumb is at the end of the day, whatever's left, you throw out, but it's still edible. That can be sold in a bag. We spend a lot of time and resource educating our consumers as well as our partners, and our consumers understand that they are rescuing food from going to waste. So it may not be completely fresh, it may be a little imperfect, especially if it's fresh produce, but it is completely fine to eat within, the day or a couple of days, or to cook with. So obviously, we take a lot of care in terms of training our partners as to what should go into bags, what shouldn't. We provide a lot of resources to that as well. And luckily, to date, in the past 2 years in Australia, but 11 years globally, we've never had an issue around food safety, because we do spend a lot of time and resource in terms of educating our partners, but also by the same token, educating our consumers as well. And we're definitely not, I guess, I think a lot of people understand, okay, I'm rescuing a bag from the bin. So it's something that literally someone's put in the bin and now they're taking out a bag. Definitely not the case. It's literally going with your own, I guess, promise of what you're delivering on a daily basis. But then also in terms of what your business can handle as well. So literally rescuing it, I guess, from that point at which you think okay, I need to move this along to make space for the next product, essentially. I hope that helps answer that question, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Sabrina. And yeah, it's again a great point on just having your team members on board with the programs and making sure they understand what's expected when you're introducing a new initiative, whether it's with Too Good To Go or any of the 3 practical initiatives listed on any of the toolkits. I guess with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining today. We'll end the webinar. I know we went slightly over time, but thank you everyone for listening and joining in. I've put my email in the chat if you'd like to get in contact to talk about the toolkits, or then get in touch with the guest speakers. I'm happy to do that as well. And just a special thank you again to Aditi for helping out, and also Vanessa from the Restaurant and Catering Association for hosting this webinar. Vanessa, did you want to say any last remaining words before we end the webinar?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. It was really enlightening, and it's just good to be reminded of ways in which we can all support these kinds of initiatives. So thank you to all of the guest speakers, and to yourself, Nick, for championing the reduction of food waste. It's great. And thank you to everyone who's joined us as well. It's great to see everyone online.